Okay, sorry, I'm redoing a video I did for Essay 3. Sorry about that. I had my microphone off, but let me see if I can remember what I said. Okay, so I had some questions about Essay 3, so I wanted to walk you through the assignment and to also through a sample student assignment that I stuck in. So here's the assignment, annotated bib and report. Okay, so this is annotated bibliography is a fairly common academic genre. You may find I've several of my students this semester have said they're doing annotated bibliographies for other classes. Criminal justice uses it often, and psychology or sociology sometimes as well. So an annotated bibliography is, as you might guess from the name, it's a list of sources, hence bibliography, that have some notes attached to them that explain what's in the sources. That's the annotated part. This assignment is a little bit more complicated because instead of just presenting the annotated bibliography, you're also going to do a short piece that'll serve as a kind of introduction to the list of sources. Okay, so for this assignment, I'm asking you to imagine a particular scenario where you're a part of a team who's getting together some resources to present to a professional, some kind of legislative body. I'm thinking a city council, board of selectmen in a town, or it could be something like a state legislature, who have to make some decisions about a budget or policy or something along those lines. So you're giving them some resources. The reason I'm using this scenario is that I want to emphasize the source quality. You need to be thinking about what would be good sources to present to a professional audience. So this should encourage you to go beyond merely Googling, though you can certainly use Google, but I'd suggest that you also want to be using Google Scholar and looking at the research databases at BCC. So I'm going to be doing quickly another video to show you a little bit about searching for sources. So there'll be more information about that. But so there's the scenario you're going to present a list of resources to give background information to a professional group. The resources will have little paragraphs that explain to the group what information is in those sources and why they're credible sources. And then you're also going to be doing this report or introduction to the sources, not a full-blown research paper kind of a thing, but a sort of mini little bit of research that uses some of the information in the sources and provides an introduction to those sources. Okay, so the student sample is right here. I'll get back to that in a minute, but let me first walk you through the process. So with this, with our place-based theme, I picked 3 place-related sort of topics for you to choose from. You may so the 3 are rebuilding an existing playground, setting regulations for tiny houses, or funding public arts projects. There's a line in here. If you think of another topic, you can let me know. I have the right of approval on it. I haven't heard from anybody, so at this point, I think you're probably going to be sticking with these 3. So your first decision is which of the 3 you want to do. Some people might want to keep their minds open and just look around for a little bit to see what kind of sources they can find. But I think probably, pretty soon you want to settle in on one of those 3. There's some information here as I scroll down about those 3 that give some ways that you might limit your research to one aspect of the issue, because these are relatively large topics, and I don't think you're going to be able to cover everything related to the information that a group would need. So there's a little paragraph of explanation, and then for at least the first 2 here, there's some bullet point suggestions of questions that you might want to focus on. With these, you can, if you find information that's going in a different direction, you may choose an alternative to those 4 and here 5 bullet points for tiny houses. So here you probably, in making the decision which of those 4 or 5 you want to focus on, you probably do want to see what you can find in terms of research, what's going to give you some enough information and good quality sources. So I won't read through these. You can read through those yourself. Hopefully you already have. With the public art, I didn't really give bullet point suggestions there. I'll try to maybe add something, but it seemed to me that the most obvious option would be to look at something about the benefits of public art. You could focus on one particular benefit. You might look at the impact of tourist dollars, say, or you might look at how this connects to sense of community or something in the town or city. So you might find a way to narrow it down if you find a number of sources that are leading you in one direction rather than, variety of advantages to public art options. So once you decide what you're looking for, first step is to find some sources. There's some information that I had asked you to read about finding sources before. They've changed things a little bit at the library, so I do want to make a new video shortly that's going to show you about their Find Everything search option in the library's on the library's website. But I do look on the databases. Do look use Google Scholar. Look on Amazon perhaps. You're not going to be reading all of these sources. You just need to have enough access to them so that you can see basically what they're about. You need at least 5 sources, so I would aim at getting at least double that. I'd encourage you to take some time to cast your net, grab in a bunch of sources fast. Don't spend the time. Don't get bogged down in looking at any one. Just put a whole list of sources. Then you can winnow through them and figure out which are the better sources. As you're collecting more and more sources, you'll get a sense of quality, and some of the ones that seemed halfway decent at the beginning may seem not so good as you find better sources. So don't get, as I said, the most efficient search strategy, I think, is to set yourself within half an hour or an hour. You should easily be able to find 10 sources of halfway decent quality. Use your blog as a way to post those sources, to preserve them. I would suggest that you have a post that's just kind of a working post that has a list of sources, and then you could put little notes for yourself about, maybe for this source, or definitely not, or definitely, this is a great one, or something like that. And then I have had some students that have been using that post as a place to sort of start taking some notes about what the sections of their report might be, of their introductory little blurb. Again, remember that, as I say here, your audience is well-educated professionals, so they'll want authoritative sources, academic research, comprehensive articles from well-known magazines or newspapers, or reports from well-respected organizations. Look for sources that have substance to them, not little, 4-paragraph USA Today articles. If you do a Google search, though, and you find some newspaper articles, one of the advantages to electronic format of newspaper articles is that they do have the ability to hyperlink. So you may find some links within a short newspaper article that lead you to more substantive reports. A lot of times newspaper articles are written in response to the publication of some book or some research report, and the newspaper journalist is just giving you a little brief taste of what the research has found, but then they'll link to a fuller academic paper or report or something that's been done. So those academic academic articles and reports would be better for your audience than the quick little surface level newspaper article. For the database sources, you want to make sure to use a permalink. Again, I'll explain a little bit more about that in the video I do about sources. Your next step is to decide which of those sources you're going to use. You want to find, again, good quality sources and enough of a variety that you're going to be able to get the information you need for your report. I would suggest you do your works cited entries at that point. The Purdue Owl has a great page that has information. Let me just quickly click here. Is this? No, that one isn't linked to the right page. Sorry about that. I'll change it before I... This one has the... Right, they changed their link on me. Okay, so you're looking down here to the works cited basic format. So books, periodicals, electronic sources, common sources. Electronic sources is mostly what people are using these days. So there is an automatic citation maker here. I'm not quite sure how it's powered by Citation Machine. You could try that. You do want to sort of double check against the more fuller description of what the citation should look like. Some of these citation makers, they're a great help, but they don't always accurately do the citations. As I tell my students, they're run by stupid computers that can't necessarily look at a web page and pick out what the website title is or things like that. So, and also they sometimes get duplication where information is showing up in several fields in the citation. So if anytime you see that kind of duplication, you may want to get in and do some editing by hand. So what you're going to do here is scroll down, see what kind of source you have. An entire website would be unlikely choice, but a page on a website would be fairly common. Or down here, an article in a web magazine or an online scholarly journal. When you're using the database sources, the citations are often done for you right on the citation, right on in the database, so be sure to look for that. Okay, let me get back to the article here. Okay, construct works cited. Okay, so once you get the works cited for each of the sources, you need to do your annotations, a short paragraph, 3 or 4 sentences about the content of the article, not a full summary, but just what kinds of information does it contain, in a few sentences. And then also something about why the source is credible. So you might focus on the expert, the fact that it's written by an expert, and give something about his or her credentials. You might talk about the credibility of the site or the organization that a report is coming from. You don't have to hit on all of the relevance, authority, bias, and currency, but whatever seems pertinent. Okay, so that's the annotated bib part. That would be the first thing you do in terms of process. The second part of your job is to do your summary presentation. The most obvious way to do this is to do a report. I'm thinking something 1 to 2 pages, page and a half. 3 or 4 paragraphs is how I would think about it. If you'd like to do something that's more visual in nature, and you're familiar with some of these different different software, that's an option as well. So if you'd like to do a photo essay or PowerPoint, Prezi, if you're familiar with that, or a video, don't do something where you'd have to teach yourself how to do the software. But the public art one, for example, I think does lend itself to images. Playground might lend itself to images. I do want some text as well. It can be either written text, or you can do voiceovers if you're doing a PowerPoint. Think of something that might be 4 or 5 minutes to present. Not I don't know how many slides that is, 6 to 10, maybe something like that. This presentation should be an introduction to the topic. It also should use some information from at least 3 of the sources that you have listed in your annotated bibliography. See the highlighted red there. So you don't have to read every source. So you might want to have a book on your list of annotated sources that you don't have to read it all. You need to produce the annotation for the annotated bibliography, but you could get information from, if you go to Amazon, you might be able to get inside the book to see the introduction. You might be able to look at reviews of the book to get enough information to just do that annotation quickly, and then you might, this is going to be something you present to the board, but that you're not actually going to use in your introduction. The 3 sources that you use, you don't have to read all of those either. Again, you want substantive sources, but I don't want you having to take the time to read through, especially if these are scholarly sources that may be somewhat difficult to read. So you can get information from the introduction, the conclusion, the abstract, if it's a source, skim through. You want to, your summary should include some specific information. Remember that you're presenting to people that, or have a general basic understanding of public issues, but not particularly this topic that you're introducing. But so you don't want to say sort of generalized information that everybody and their brother knows. You want to use some specific statistical information, or some specific bits of information from the source. Those bits of information, if you're doing paragraphs, will have in-text citations. If you're doing something oral, if you're doing notes, PowerPoint or something, you don't necessarily need to put in-text citations. You can't, but do acknowledge where the information is coming from. And then you'll have the annotated bibliography. You want to make sure that your reader can tell which of the sources in your annotated bibliography you got that specific information from. So you need to decide on what kind of a genre you're using, whether it's just simple paragraph report kind of thing, or if you're doing something else. Take notes. You want to look for 3 or 4 different kind of chunks or buckets of information that you want to hit on. So pay attention to focus on your paragraphs. Look for the specific information you can use, organize things, write your paragraph. If you're composing a report, be sure to include in-text citations, as I said. Okay, so that's, and then their criteria here. So that's the for the rough draft. The sample here is about from a theme-based course on robots, and this person was writing about robots used as caretakers for the elderly. So this is just to give you an idea what the thing looks like. So you've done the annotated bibliography first, and then the report, but when you present it, you're going to flip that. So it obviously makes more sense for the report, which is serving as an introduction, to come first. So she has here 4 paragraphs. Don't spend a lot of time with an introduction. If you're only going to do 3 or 4 paragraphs, don't start with this from the beginning of time. Since the beginning of time, children have played on whatever. Don't waste your time with those kind of generalized introductions. Think of business writing, more immediate, get to the point quickly. A sentence or 2 to establish what you're talking about. You also could use a title that helps to establish that, and then kind of get to the main points that you want to be making. You can see in-text citations here. And so that comes first. Then I would say call it an annotated bibliography rather than works cited. Works cited implies that all of the sources listed are actually used in the report or in the essay, and that is not probably going to be the case here. And also you have the annotations added, so annotated bibliography is a more accurate term. for this. So author, title, blah, blah. She's got a hyperlink here for the URL. You also could hyperlink the title. I for some reason, I think that looks a little bit neater, but you're going to have the URL anyway, so you might as well, you could make that a hyperlink. That looks fine. For some reason, I guess she's got a hyperlink here, but not here. I don't know why that happened. So yeah, try to make sure that there's a hyperlink either for the title or you've got the URL that's actually working as a hyperlink. And she's got a little blurb here. These are a little bit on the skimpy side, could have a little bit beefier. You know, if you're looking at A's and A pluses, you have a little bit beefier. But this is, you know, serviceable. The source explains the work put towards having a robot that assists the elderly socially as opposed to just physically. So she's just really giving me a one sentence identification of what the work is about. And, you know, maybe a sentence, you know, 2 or 3 sentences would be good. She does give quite a bit of information about credibility and value of the sources. She has more than 5, which is, you can always go more than that especially if there's sources that you're not actually going to use and you found some great sources. One of the things that I'm going to be looking at is source quality. So you know, don't feel like you're limited to 5, but then again, you only need to use the 3 for the report. Okay, so that's an overview. I have a couple other topics I'd like to make some short videos about. I'll try to, it's Friday today, I'll try to get this done by this afternoon. It's just a rough draft that's due on the 10th for my online students and the following Wednesday for my face-to-face students. So if you have any other questions, hopefully the audio is working here, but if you have any other questions, feel free to put a comment in the comments below or shoot me an email if it's an individual question about your particular topic. Okay, good luck. Looking forward to seeing what you come up with.